traits. So he says, glory in tribulation, boast. Rejoice, knowing that tribulation produces perseverance. Perseverance, character, and character, hope. Again, hope is this idea of certainty. Now remember, character is the quality of being approved. And if you endure tribulations, God will reveal this to you and you'll get these things right. He works to develop certain qualities in our lives. He wants us, one thing I don't like is to be, one thing that God revealed to me is I don't like to be made fun of because I'm too proud. I don't like to be considered stupid because I'm too proud. I don't like to be being ridiculed and not saying something back that's mean. I don't like that. And God says, I want you to work on this. But these traits don't even come to the surface until you're in some deep weeds. So he wants to develop certain qualities and virtues. And to me, you know, here Jesus could walk on water, raise the dead, give sight to the blind. The lame would leap for joy, and he sits quietly before Herod as they make fun of him. And I'm thinking, wow, unbelievable. Power under control. As a matter of fact, he gave a hint of what he could do. In John's Gospel, when they came to arrest him, he asked them, who do you seek? And they said, Jesus of Nazareth. And he said, I am he. And they fell back. All of them fell back. They get up, you know, Jesus, what was that all about? Dusting himself off. Christ gives a little hint about what he could have done if he wanted to resist. But he humbly submitted. One of the things I don't like to do is I don't like to be humbly submit when I'm being whooped on. It's just not something that's in my disposition. And God says, I want that under my Spirit's control. Enough of that. Character will bring hope. Now, hope, and you get excited and approved when you see yourself making progress. You've been in the refinery for so long, and now you're making progress, and you can look back and say to yourself, I remember when that would be all over me and trip me up, and I'd fall flat on my face, and now it doesn't have control. I am in control. Amen? And that's going to generate hope. And that word hope means expectation. And expectation here is pleasing to God, and also the idea of a glorious entrance into God's heaven. Now note verse 5. Hope does not disappoint. This expectation, you're not going to be disappointed because the love of God has been poured out in our hearts. You know, thank God. I think back in my own life and I see lives that have been changed. God has poured His love in the lives of people, and they've been transformed as a result. They can see that transformation in their own lives. And that generates some excitement because there's a destiny, heaven, where all there's going to be is love. Imagine heaven, the expectations or the experiences of these near-death experiences. And one of the things I say over and over again when they meet Jesus is just the incredible feeling of love. There's no fear. There is remorse because He reviewed their lives. And some of these individuals, they're not Christians, and I'm not sure how that all played out, but they come back and they're revived, and some of them, I'm thinking of the artist that was an atheist, and he comes back and goes back he goes into ministry, but the love of God, this overwhelming feeling of love and acceptance. Well, this whole concept, because the love of God has been poured out into our lives, we are now patient with people that we'd never be patient with. We're now kind to people who would rather just verbally give them a tongue lashing. We're now tolerant with individuals who really, in a sense, don't really deserve tolerance. The love of God has been poured out in our lives by the Holy Spirit who has been given to us. Blessed is the man who endures temptation, James says in 1:12, for when he has been approved, he receives the crown of life. If you want real joy in your life, stay with the difficult times, allow God to refine you, confess your sins, always be humble, don't be proud, and you will enjoy life to its fullest. It doesn't mean that you're going to get everything that you want, That isn't going to happen. But God has poured out His Spirit in our lives and has given us the Holy Spirit. Let me say in summary, one sentence summary, here it is. Faith brings peace with God and hope for the future. Faith brings peace with God and hope for the future. There's a woman, that little child that was born by the name of Mercy Good Faith. She was an orphan, and at the age of 10 was unhappy, sickly, ill-tempered, ugly, and had a hunchback. Boy, she had a number of strikes against her. No one seemed to love this poor child, and no one wanted her either. When who wants a dog that's always biting you? Then one day a lady showed up and said, I'd like to take a child who no one else wants to take. This child's an orphan. Fast forward it now 35 years into the future, and there are reports that are coming up about an orphanage that stands head and shoulders above all other orphanages. A caseworker had reported that the children in this orphanage were clean and happy. The matron of this home frequently sang with the children while they played on the pump organ. They all had a very deep-seated affection for the house mother, and they were constantly hanging around her. This happy, helpful woman was none other than that ugly hunchback named Mercy Goodfaith. True story. Her affliction did not make her bitter, but led her into a life of service and devotion. She was shown the love of God by this woman that adopted her. Beloved, the end result of all of this is the love of God in our own lives. Sometimes it takes great loss to bring that about, but God pours it out in our hearts through His Holy Spirit.